and welcome back to Chats with RRS. I'm Guleid, as you all know. It's been a while since we've done a podcast, or I've actually been on a podcast. A lot has happened since then. Football nearly came home, the general elections, Trump survived an assassination, and many more things have happened in the world. But I'm back with Becky. As you guys all know, Becky works here, and she works in our training and development and internal recruitment side of things. Hi Becky, how are you? You alright?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all.
Good.
I'm asking you that like I don't see you every day, but I know you've been well and you've been doing okay. So today's podcast and this episode today is actually going to talk about the current job market. It's a mid-year checkpoint to see what we've found the last couple of quarters to be like in regards to temp and perm recruitment, and how you particularly found the internal side of things. So what would you say the current status is of the current job market?
I think from an internal perspective, obviously we're hiring recruiters mostly. It's quite tight at the minute. I've noticed that there's not as many candidates that are looking to move. People seem quite settled where they are actually. I've had a lot of people say actually no, I'm actually quite happy where I am. So in terms of, the internal side of things, there's not a wealth of candidates there. And I've noticed that it does change depending on where we are. So I'm not sure if it's been mentioned on the pod before, but we have 3 different offices. And to be honest, the one that's got the most candidates at the moment is Burton. Leicester is quite tight. And I don't know whether this is a nationwide thing or whether it's just something that we've noticed, but there doesn't seem to be people moving around in the same way as even a few months ago.
I totally agree. And one of the trends that we've noticed, so we just wrapped up our figures for the first 2 quarters of the month at the start of July. We actually did that. And what we have actually found is candidates that we've placed in permanent positions are actually falling in terms of numbers, and temp numbers are picking up in a slight way. And the way we kind of justified it was a couple of reasons. One of them could be uncertainty in the job market or business ideas of what they want to do moving forward. And this stems off from the general election. General elections can cause a little bit of uncertainty in the world. So the permanent staff appointments fall again in the year, but there's a slight rise in our figures in temp billings. And that just comes from people just wanting to wait and see what happens. But if we typically talk about the last 5-year trends, I actually saw an article the other day from the REC that in 2019 we were probably doing 50-50 temp and perm in the country. This isn't just like regional recruitment services. Then we had a huge drop in the beginning of 2020, around about May, March sort of time. And guess why that was? Hello, well, it was COVID. And when we got past COVID, back in September, things started to pick back up. Some people going back into work. The uncertainty of battling the invisible virus was stopped, and we knew what we were sort of dealing with. You still get people that ring in with COVID from time to time till today. It's a common flu, I think, these days, but I won't go into that side of things about COVID, or
it's probably not a good idea.
I won't open that kind of worms. And then it all picked up. So we went from a transition in like the start of Jan 2021 till right up until 2022 that we saw a positive impact in the recruitment industry. And from about September 2022, there has been a slight drop in permanent recruitment. Another thing that actually causes this is in the last 8 months, we've seen the biggest spike in salaries. A, that was due to minimum wage changing. B, cost of living. I'm this close of listing my kidneys on eBay next time I receive an invoice. It's getting so expensive out there. Yeah. And it's becoming a world where consumerism is being put to a hold. Like, look at the high street. The high street's dead. And some people might say perm recruitment is dying, but best believe me, it's not. What you're noticing is the consultants that couldn't hack the heat are unfortunately jumping ship. But the ones that were good at their job are surviving and trading out this period. I'm not saying that recruitment's negative at all. I'm not trying to put anybody off, but it's not an easy gig. You got to speak to so many different people, and kiss so many frogs to find your ideal princess or prince. So what challenges have you guys faced within internal recruitment in the last sort of year?
I mean, for internal, I think to be honest, this goes beyond internal, because from having conversations with the consultants that we have here as well, and them sort of outlining their challenges that they've had, I think in general, there's jobs about, but there isn't candidates. And I've noticed that as kind of a broad spectrum of what people are experiencing. And I do think as well, as I've done a little bit of sourcing for roles here and there, it's the same for that. Like there's jobs on, the candidates aren't there. And I don't know whether it's because people, I mean, time of the year for sure, at the moment, people are on holiday, aren't they? Like you don't tend to look for a job when you're on holiday. Maybe it'll start picking up again, just kind of September time, kids are back at school, that sort of thing. But I think people with, like you say, the uncertainty around the general election, they're not wanting to move because they don't necessarily know how the next few months, years are going to pan out. It's just about sitting tight, isn't it? And the only people that I've spoken to that are actually looking for a move are people that are deeply unhappy in their jobs. But I haven't noticed people moving for things like salary as much. I think it's sort of the uncertainty if they just want to have a job in some senses.
To a certain extent, yeah. You absolutely hit the nail on the head. The other thing that you'll get is cultural changes. So some of the things that we had to adapt to was the mindset of the new generation coming into the world of work. A few years ago, podcasts, social media marketing wasn't on this sort of level as we are on today. This would have been seen as a waste of time by my previous directors. And some people may still see this as a waste of time. But best believe this gives you engagement for your business. It keeps your staff engaged. It keeps the public engaged. And believe it or not, it actually drives the intake of candidates applying to our roles and also clients reaching out to find out what we're doing. So it's showing a bit of your culture. One of the things that you guys have asked me, and everybody knows that we don't sit here and record on our own. So I'd like to shout out the person behind the camera, and that is Georgia, who works on our marketing team. We wouldn't be able to do this without her. And one of the things she's asked me, and we are going to get a trend going on this. So if you want to support Georgia, check out our TikTok pages. Link will be here somewhere. Another task for Georgia to sort out.
She loves doing that.
Is she wants to bring a dog into work, and I'm absolutely petrified of dogs. And we're going to do a bit of a challenge. If you can get 1,500 likes, so TikTok, like, subscribe, comment.
I want the dog in the office, so please like the TikTok.
The dog will come in, and it's adapting to the newer times, or being able to be fun and quirky, to adapt and sort of bypass the challenges that we are facing within the industry. Personally, I would say the challenges that we have in the market is some clients not knowing what they want because of the uncertainty of the government changing. Also, it's clients changing the goalposts sometimes. They'll tell you they want a unicorn and the next thing they want is a flying pig. Both of those don't exist. And we have to go through so much muddy patches to get to the other end, and ideally keep being positive, and there will be a light at the end of that tunnel. And what I would say to people, the expectations that you should set yourself through the next couple of quarters is plan, write it down, plan and execute your plan. And I kid you not, that you'll get to places once you have got that vision and you've got a target to go places. The demand for staff has declined modestly as well. Overall, the demand for staff continued to fall within this year, and clients are or businesses are recognizing that people can wear multiple hats in businesses, so they can do more than one job, as Becky does over here. So sometimes she's doing a bit of training and development. From time to time, she's doing internal recruitment. The next moment, she's holding one-to-ones. Another time she might help us source for our client jobs. So it's not like she's got one specific role. And people are recognizing that people have got more than one talent, and they're utilizing it a little bit more. The other thing I was going to ask you, what do you expect for the next couple of quarters? What do you think will happen in terms of, now that we have got a government and we know who it is, Keir Starmer and Labour and so forth? What do you think will happen across the country?
I mean, I think I think there's definitely going to be a shift in some aspects of employment law. If I might be wrong, so correct me if I am, but I'm fairly certain that the government have announced something to do with the minimum wage going up to the living wage as like a standardised thing. So I think with them introducing more legislation around work, that will definitely change the environment. Whether it's for good or for bad, I think it's hard to say at this moment in time. You know, I'm not a political expert. However, I think it's important to keep an eye on it and kind of think about what it is that you want as well out of a job, and how that aligns with what's going on in the general landscape at the moment. In terms of what I hope to happen over the next few months, I hope that it becomes a more candidate-rich market. It's definitely a more candidate-led market now than it was.
I would say it's always has been a candidate-led market. Yeah, 100%. Candidates have been dictating, hence why we're getting steep increases in salaries.
Yes.
Candidates have been dictating for a very long while, and the government's starting to support that with putting the minimum wages up and the expectations of 0-hour contracts and the rest of it. If you do want to find out more, please reach out. We can hold a webinar if we have enough people reaching out, and we can give you guys the update on the legislation and the rest of it. But it is the government backing and recognising that life's just getting more expensive by the day. Car insurances have gone up through the roof. And just in general, the way people are living, the standards of living have gone up, as well as the cost of living have gone up. And fair play to the government to recognise and support the workers and encourage people to be at work, because there was a time where we went through a period where some people would be like, that's not worth waking up for. And that was because the government was backing them in benefits and other financial gains that they were receiving. What tips would you give candidates?
I think it's important to make your CV stand out more. Obviously, you're up against people who are probably more than qualified for the job as well. So, you know, try and keep it really relevant to the job that you're applying for. I see that a lot on LinkedIn where people are talking about different CVs, and they might have loads of experience doing something else and they put that on there as well, but it's not wholly relevant to the actual position that you're applying for. So I think try and tailor your CV as much as possible to the jobs that you are applying for. It might be that you have to tweak it between applying for one position and then applying for another position, which, if that is the case, I know it can be frustrating, but it could make the difference between you getting an interview and you not getting an interview.
Definitely. And the other thing that I'm noticing on LinkedIn and so forth is people are applying, or people are posting statuses to say, I've applied for 200 jobs, I've not had any feedback, I've been rejected here, I've not got the interview here. The one thing I would say to candidates is stay positive. In life, if you keep going, you will get something out of it. And I tell the people here internally, or anybody that's been on my training courses, or people that have met me and that kind of know me in a professional capacity, will know one of my favorite sayings is, a ship can survive in water. The only time a ship sinks is if the water comes inside of it. Life's the exact same. Negativity is always going to be around us. The only time you will sink as a person if you allow that negativity to get into your head or your internals. So don't let the external bad vibes get into your head and demotivate you. Keep going, and trust me, you will get to the end goals that you want to get to. Nothing that is worth it comes easy in life. So the more that you apply, the more you keep going, the more you prep yourself for these jobs, and put in that extra little bit of work of Becky's advice of tailor your CV to what you're actually applying for. So if you've got irrelevant experience on there, I used to be a bartender, but you're applying for an accountancy job, we don't really need to know that while she was at university of what you were doing. We'd rather know your qualifications and current experience for the role that you're applying for, because we sieve through so many different CVs. And sometimes you read it and you're like, maybe not. But really and truly, your experience, and it is worth a chat.
And off the back of that as well, something that I have noticed is sometimes when you call candidates for like doing a screening call just to see if they're, you know, it would be worth taking them to interview stage. I'll call them and I'm like, oh, okay, so what's made you apply for this role? And if it is, they're like, oh, remind me what role it was because I've applied for a lot. That's fine, fair enough. But then when you say what it is, you're like, okay, what's made you want to get into recruitment, for example? And they're like, oh, well, I'm not really sure. I just want to try something new. It's not really giving me the hope that there's something that they definitely want or that they're passionate about. So I think, you know, obviously it's very individual, but if it is that you do want to get into recruitment or any industry, when you have that initial call, be like, yeah, I want to do it because I want to make a difference to my life, or, you know, make it personal to you as to why you want it, but show that you want it, not just, oh, well, I'm not actually too sure, or kind of sitting on the fence, because to someone who's potentially going to try and get you an interview, that makes it look like you're not that interested.
Be confident in yourself, basically, yes. Yeah. Now let's flip that. What would you advise employers, clients, businesses?
When hiring candidates? I think be realistic with your expectations of what you want for candidates, because something that I've picked up from other consultants in the business is that a lot of the time candidates want the world. You know, we were talking about unicorn candidate, clients want the world, sorry. We were talking about unicorn candidates earlier. So they're asking for a lot from the candidates, but a lot of the time the salary isn't necessarily matching, or the whole package isn't matching what they actually are looking for. It's a little bit less than potentially what it is. And maybe that's because they don't have the budget at the minute. Maybe it's because candidates have higher expectations and higher things that they want in their life, which is totally fair. But I think if you've got the ideal candidate sat in front of you and they're saying, I think I need a bit of a higher salary because I'm on this at my current company, blah, 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 listen to them. Don't just write them off because they want maybe a couple of extra £1,000 a year, because that could make all of the difference to your business. Investing that extra $2-3 a year into that one person could end up generating so much more revenue for your business in the long term.
I would add on to that. Be specific in your job description of what you're after. Hours, salary, expectations. But the other thing I would say to that is manage people's expectations in terms of timeframes. You don't want to leave a candidate hanging in the process, because candidate experience is completely different to a client's experience. We need to make sure it's smooth, easy, and precise. You follow these bits of advice and it'll be so smooth to get somebody over the line and in your business. And on that note, that's bang, bang, boogie recruitment, and see you later.
Well, what does that mean?